Hello there. It's episode 344 of the Keto Diet Podcast. My name is Leanne Vogel. I'm the host. I'm also the best-selling author of the Keto Diet, the Keto Diet Cookbook, and Keto for Women. If you want to find out more from me, you can go to healthfulpursuit.com. We have an awesome show planned for you today. I'm interviewing my dear friend Vivica. We're chatting about weight loss, safe weight loss, how to support your body through weight loss, how to do it right and wrong, detoxification processes, why your liver is involved with your weight loss and how you want it super healthy, and so much more. I want to thank our two sponsors for today's show. The first is LMNT electrolytes. I have an empty packet right beside me because I don't go anywhere without these electrolyte packets. So good. I'll include a link down below so you can save some money with that. And Paleo Valley, they make beef sticks that are fermented, protein powders, bars. I have an empty wrapper here somewhere from recording because their lemon meringue bars are amazing. So I'll include links down there on how you can save and access those products. Okay, let's get to today's interview. Hi, Vivica. How are you?
Hey, Leanne, it's so good to be back here with you.
It's been so long. It feels like decades, but it's probably only been 2 or 3 years. We've known each other a very long time, it feels.
I know. I call us the Ketosauruses.
It's so true because there aren't many people left. Kind of like when we started, there were a couple of key people and stuff, and we're some of the only ones left.
I know, as so much has changed in the keto world since our first interviews. Even like when you remember, nobody knew what keto even meant back in the day.
It's so true. When you started every recording, people would be like, so tell me about what you do. And you'd have to start off about saying like keto. Oh, and then you're like, oh yeah, people don't know what keto is. Keto is a blah, 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 metabolic state, blah, 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 that whole elevator pitch that you had to have because people were like, what's a keto?
No. And by the way, you had the best elevator pitch. I was always in awe. Like I used to watch all your videos and be like, oh my God, Leanne is so good. She's just so good.
You know what? Thank you. And also, I don't even remember what it was. Like keto is a metabolic state, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it's been a minute, huh? I had your pitch kind of memorized from watching so many of your videos.
Well, thank you very much for watching all those videos. And because we're friends and we're just chatting back and forth, perhaps we would like to include everyone in our awesome conversation and for you to just share with us who you are, what you do in your own words. I said your official bio, but like, who are you?
Yeah, good question. I think I define myself as a nutritionist, still these days evolving rapidly. And I usually call myself a holistic practitioner because like it kind of goes beyond just nutrition, even though people don't understand that nutrition doesn't mean just diet. Nutrition means healing the body through natural holistic methods based on food and nutrients. But nutrition is also detoxification. That's a really big part of it. And you and I had chatted before about the importance of detoxing. I'm still really big on that. So nutrition can also be lifestyle practices. Nutrition can include, intermittent fasting or fasting practices. So there are different aspects to nutrition. And like one thing I do in nutrition, I read blood work, I do, lab testing. And so there is so much more than just diet. And of course, diet is the foundation of nutrition. So I do work with the diet and the lifestyle of my clients, and then expanding into like these other facets of like a holistic practice.
That is a beautiful elevator pitch, if I do say so myself. And I mean, I have so many questions in relation to what you just shared. And one of them is the evolution of nutrition as it relates to labs. Like, I don't know if you've noticed over the last 5 years, especially the last couple of years, the functional labs and what we have access to has just like grown exponentially to the point where you can work with a client. And before I even get started, I definitely ask them for blood labs so I can understand from a functional perspective what the patterns are in the labs. But then there can also be Dutch and GI map and gut permeability and all these pieces. Have you noticed that change over the last couple of years and how effective that has been for your practice?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's kind of like a little bit of a two-edged sword sometimes, though, because like I love all these really great labs that we can get. And like we can see so much more from just like 5 years ago, like, the kind of like blood work that I study now, there is like 50% more on top that, is all new and is always developing. So that's really good. Also, though, sometimes I find that it becomes a little like rabbit holey, like you just jump into this rabbit hole of labs, and then like some practitioners will like order more labs, which becomes really like kind of another way to working like a medical doctor. So I like to keep it in balance in my practice. I like to see some basic labs and then do some work with the patient, and then like we'll go into more specific stuff if we need to. But for me, it's really more about trying to keep that holistic view where like I look at the numbers, but sometimes the numbers are just numbers, and like I'm really wary for myself about falling into that same mindset of like follow the science. I have a very healthy respect for science, and I'm really grateful for the ability to have those tools. And again, for me, those are not the last word, like the definite sentence on something, because there is so much more that needs to be seen in the situation of the case of the patient. And like for me, it's like more like a holographic picture where I try to look at the case, has this like 4-dimensional picture of like, there is what's here and now, there is your case history, there is your genetic history, there is your lifestyle. So there are all these different elements that come to contribute. And like the labs can also really just tell us sometimes one perspective. But yeah, it's gone a little crazy with the labs.
Right, exactly. And what you're really talking about is clinical correlation. I think a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it too. Like I'll see a lab and I'll be like, oh yeah. And you kind of dig your fingers into it and you're like, oh, this is good. But if the person isn't experiencing certain symptoms and they're not lining up, you really have to understand clinical correlation. And I agree with you. I think it's like this delicate balance, having access to all these things now to kind of understand what to do, what not to do, how to be conscious of somebody's budget and what their goals are. So yeah, you said it so well. And I guess another piece of that evolution is, and we talked about this when we were talking back and forth really quickly, is how keto has evolved. And, we started off with our interviews where we had to have everything put together because people didn't, one, know what keto was. And as soon as they heard, we're like, dip your bacon in mayonnaise. People are like, I'm out. This is crazy talk. How have you seen keto evolve, not only from people's acceptance of it and just like how they practice it moving forward?
Yeah, wow. It's been kind of like keto's been an explosion. And I remember when I first started, like my first program that I did, it was in like 2014 and or 15, something like that, 14 or 15. So my first program that I launched publicly, and I was thinking, working mostly with metabolic clients, so people with pre-diabetes were really kind of my target audience at that moment. And I was thinking, wow, in a nation of people that have abused sugar and carbs for so long, keto is really kind of the only answer to reverse that metabolic damage. And there is such huge potential for this diet to become like the saving grace. And in fact, that's exactly what happened, that people caught on to it and realized, and now like all these like doctors, converted to keto, and all these like really practitioner and functional medicine doctors, like all these people with like big names and big degrees and all the stuff that I don't have, caught on. And like keto was like exploding with reason, because like I feel like it's really what this nation needed, and kind of the Western world, you know, coming from all this like over abuse of sugar, carbs, and processed foods. But then there are like, you know, as something becomes really popular, all the shortcutting that happens with keto and like all the different versions, like dirty keto or lazy keto. And, you know, I know like from your experience and following you, you know, from the very beginning, that you're also always been a proponent of like really clean and healthy food. And like from Healthful Pursuits, like the name itself says it, okay? So it's not just about losing weight or, you know, cutting down your insulin or your A1C. It's also about being healthy and creating a foundation of health. So I feel like sometimes we have lost the purpose, the true purpose of keto with like, you know, this like giant explosion, and like people do love their shortcuts, you know. I mean, I do too when I can, but unfortunately, when you lose perspective with what your health is and how to create a foundation for your health through your diet, you know, then doing like this like McDonald's keto really does not work for me. And
Yeah,
you
I
see
think that
that too now.
perspective of health is a really important piece to touch on. Is we can chase symptoms just like we can chase the labs, you know, and we'll say, well, if this symptom, you know, let's try to work on this symptom and that symptom. And all of a sudden you have all these protocols for all these symptoms. And really at the end of the day, most of us just want to feel healthy, and that healthy probably looks like not weighing 120 pounds over our quote unquote goal weight, but I think those goals for health are going to look a little bit different for each individual based on their symptoms. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I kind of try to explain to people. And it's not a very popular view because, you know, people want to just like, even the patients that come to me, they're like, oh, but I really want to lose weight. And like, okay, well, for you to really want to lose weight, especially if you haven't been able to lose weight naturally or by yourself, and your weight is super stuck, that means there is something blocking that weight loss. So we need to look at that. And then we do all the work of like restoring their health and finding those blocks, and they start feeling better. And, you know, they feel so much better. Energy comes back, stable blood sugar, you know, pain go away, all those beautiful things. And then they're like, but I'm not losing as much weight as I wanted to. It's like, oh, I have some patients like that. I'm like, yeah, but you're healthy now at least. So it does look different for everybody. And like, you know, for some people, the ones that actually lose weight very easily, they're probably not the ones that will come to me, because like maybe their health is way better and it's more straightforward for them, and like little fixes and little changes will help them to achieve those weight loss goals. But if you can't do it, then it means there is something else underneath. And it's a good motivator, right? At the end of the day, we need to be grateful for weight, because like it's something that really presses on our emotions. And so like it's like that motivator that sends us to do the right things in the end of the day, or trying, hopefully, not always. There are things like the HCG diet. Remember that thing? Like,
Remember, I mean, I still have clients that have done it
they're still
recently
doing
in the
it.
last 6 months.
I think maybe with keto being so prevalent, there's been less brutal damaging diets around. So that's a great benefit of keto becoming so popular. I mean, even dirty keto is better than an HCG diet and will not destroy your metabolism as much.
That's so true. And I think you touched on so many pieces that I agree with as it relates to weight loss. And it's unfortunate that the people that, you know, they lose weight pretty quickly and they're like, well, I don't need to see anyone. I got my goals. I'm losing weight. And they're usually those 20 something, 30 something people. But then I'm working, and probably perhaps you're working with people that are in their 40s, 50s, and now they can't lose the weight. And
Right.
there were these health imbalances way back when, and now they've quote unquote been imbalanced for 15, 20 years. And now we're left with this I don't want to say mess because it can totally be cleaned up. No, like it can be fixed, quote unquote.
Totally.
Have you experienced that too? Like where you're like, oh, I wish you would have reached out to me like 10 years ago. Do you know?
Yeah, always. And this is just about being human. And like, I guess that we will not, a lot of humans, you're in our lifestyle, everything is so right now, the pace of life is so fast and so many challenges. So we're kind of like dealing with this in front of us. And if we don't have to deal with something, have the tendency to not do it. There are not that many people that have the privilege to be able to like really plan ahead and look ahead. And like a lot of times you just like, until it's really hitting you in the face, you don't even have the span of bandwidth to deal with things. So I have a lot of understanding for the people that are in survival mode and kind of like stuck in survival mode. I wish they could understand that this survival mode is eventually going to get you into a deep hole, but honestly, Leanne, when I was in my 30s, I didn't think, oh, when I'm 50 and if I continue like this, I'm going to be really messed up, or in my 40s. I was taking care of my health holistically, but I was still drinking, so like I was like eating pizza. I didn't think I had, and like I didn't even know that I had certain things until I finally started looking for them, because our body is so forgiving when we're younger that, one of my assistants, there's this great story I want to share just quickly. Like my social media assistant, she was vegan for 4 years, and she was pretty much like went from eating really bad to being vegan as an elimination diet, which worked really well for a short period of time. It was an elimination diet, great. But then she stayed vegan, and she just was luckily pretty clean vegan, but like she was vegan for 4 or 5 years, and suddenly she started having all the symptoms, went to the doctor and like got the labs. That's where the labs really come in strong. And she turned out to be totally nutrient deficient in so many nutrients. And that was a big wake up call for her, and like, but it just had to hit her in the face like a ton of bricks, because like she could not even really understand or hear that this is going to lead you to nutrient deficiencies. And like, no, it doesn't. I'm doing everything great. And then like when you hit the wall, suddenly it's like, okay, now I got to handle this. And the same is like with, health conditions that are underlying to weight gain, until you really hit that wall, most likely you're not going to address it because there is other stuff to do. I understand how you can come to that, and it's okay. Like, that's why there are people like Leanne and I that can help you rewind the tape, and just slowly, like, yes, you got yourself all the way to this place, but luckily the body is so forgiving, and like health is attainable. Like you say, it's very attainable. We can't fix those things. We can't reverse disease. Sometimes it takes really working with a professional, because like there is been a lot of damage done, but then we can clean it up and, make people better, make ourselves better.
Yeah, it's completely true. And I think it reminds me of Sleeping Beauty, which we watched recently, when all the fairies are fighting, and they're making a total mess. And you're like, how is this even going to be cleaned up? But I think, that's part of, I think, and I speak for you also, why we enjoy our jobs, that cleanup and just the education piece that comes with it. And I agree. I mean, I know this too. Last year in December of 2020, I was diagnosed with a pretty serious parasite. I didn't know it was there. I probably had this thing for about 7 or 8 years. And looking back, there were all those symptoms and all those things. And I just thought it was from something I ate, or I had like a little issue here or there. No, like it was a parasite. So I don't think until it gets so bad, or you find out and you're like, oh shoot, now I've been hit with this. I have to deal with it. And I think that that's a great way of describing that. There was something that you said earlier, the weight being stuck and your health. What kind of things are you seeing? You start working with a client and they're like, my weight is not moving. What's wrong with me? Why isn't this working? I've adjusted my macros. I've done everything right. What sorts of things are you seeing that's stopping people from being able to achieve weight loss on a ketogenic diet?
Well, It's interesting that you brought up parasites, because lately I've been seeing so many parasite cases, and I've been doing parasite cleanses the whole time. I'm a nutritionist for 8 years, but lately it seems like it's like, whoop, escalated. Everybody's got parasites, including myself too. I mean, I also went to
Yay,
Peru,
welcome to the
so
club.
right? I know I have to still do round 2 of my deworming, I call it. And I don't know, like, I think that looking at things like parasites, like in nutrition, we talk about there are several, like not that many root causes of disease, but like parasites is definitely one. And then there is toxicity. So pesticides, glyphosates, that's a huge one. That's so pervasive. It's like the stuff is everywhere, like on the lawns, on the food, sprayed on the monocrops. Like glyphosates are antibiotics. They were patented as antibiotics. They're not just pesticides. What they do is they decimate your gut flora. So once your gut is completely like unbalanced, of course you can't lose weight. You will gain weight, because like this is part of our metabolism and is part of our immunity. And then like toxins are not able to be processed properly, and then they start accumulating in the only storage area that you have, which is your fat cells. So toxicity is definitely an underlying cause of like this lack of weight loss or weight gain, and being totally stuck. Your body's like, I can't detox. I'm not ready or equipped for detoxing. So no, you're not going to lose all the millions of toxins stored in your fat, because otherwise you're going to drop that. So that's, a really big one right there. And then it's metabolic, but like metabolic seen from the wider point of endocrine balance, like the whole endocrine system, which has been our favorite topic for many chats that we had, about thyroid and adrenals and ovaries, but also the connection of like female hormones and thyroid hormones to metabolic hormones named insulin, and then stress hormones, cortisol, and how all of them balance together. And like, finally, there has been much more awareness about these like endocrine relationships that are really dooming one person to be able not to be able to lose weight, or to be stuck in certain symptoms forever. But like, if you go to a conventional endocrinologist or a medical doctor, they really don't make those connections still to this day, with all the information out there. And even if there are many functional medicine doctors that are better and like able to see further, but still sometimes I feel like there are missing bridges, like not every practitioner is really able to dig into the intercorrelations of your endocrine system, and also unravel those big complicated balls of yarn of your hormones, unravel them out and be like, okay, where does this start actually? How do we fix this? How do we approach this cascade, and like, where does it originate, so that we can address it at the root and not just try to palliative symptom, give you thyroid medication when you can't lose weight. And that might work for a minute, but then, it's not going to work for the long term, when like there are so many other dysfunctions underlying that are causing you to then, oh, I got on thyroid meds, I lost weight, I feeling great, and like 3 years later, back to square one.
Right, because it's not root cause work. What I'm hearing you say is, and I say the same thing as it relates to metabolic chaos. Like, you have the functional issues and the biochemical issues and the chemical issues. And you touched on some, radiation, parasites, viruses, all those external things. You have inflammatory foods, the things you're taking in, and those are quite common. You hear about eat anti-inflammatory foods, but that's just one of many of it. Your prescription medications, alcohol, which you touched on, allergies. If you're eating the same foods all the time that you're allergic to, that's going to increase your cortisol, which is going to increase your glucose. And so it's this whole cascade. And you're right, it does take a good practitioner to be like that huge ball of all the things, and sitting down and like piece by piece being like, okay. And I mean, I know you totally
And
nerd out
mold.
over that.
Mold is another one that's been
Oh,
coming up
mold.
so strong. Like I bet you in Florida and on the boat, you have to deal with that a lot because it's super humid there. Like and also when you're exposed to mold, then you remain sensitive. And it's crazy because like mold is another one that's been coming back to me and like start affecting my bronchial passages and then like giving me this cough and then like my adrenals are shot again because of the mold. So it's really interesting. If somebody doesn't know, it would like see it as an adrenal case when in reality underneath the adrenal case is a mold case,
I'm
or a
so
parasite case.
happy you touched on that because I can't tell you how many times recently I've been looking at people's files and their history, and then I'm looking at their labs and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is mold or parasites or heavy metals. Those are like the three that have been coming up so much lately. I don't know why. I have no clue why. I
Same,
don't know.
same,
And
same.
they're on estrogen patch, they're on progesterone, they're on adrenal, they're on pregnenolone, they're on DHEA, they're taking testosterone pellets. And I'm like, guys, this is not the root cause. Like we're not actually getting to the problem. You said you're seeing that too?
Yeah, totally. And then they come to you after seeing like this functional medicine doctor and this like fancy endocrinologist that, super specialist, whatever. And nobody thinks about those things. There are not that many people that talk about mold. Again, mold is coming up as, there is more testing, luckily, so that it's easier to get tested for mold. Back in the days, it was pretty much just muscle testing. Like there was not the like extensive lab testing you can do, and it was really expensive and difficult to find if there was. But yeah, it has been incredibly, like, I don't know, maybe Leanne, because there is more testing available now, then we have more readiness to find those root causes, which is great. And before, there was only a very like small section of practitioners that were even aware how to handle these things, because I remember when in my training, we covered all those modalities, but then again, it was just like chiropractors, if they took those classes, or acupuncturists, holistic practitioners, but they had to take specific training. It wasn't covered by their general training. So I can see why it would be overlooked and then don't talk about it. And now finally it's coming out, but heavy metals, dental. Have you dealt with dental stuff a lot? Like,
yeah, my husband had 30 mercury fillings. And we hired a holistic dentist. It cost too much money, but it was worth every penny. They found mercury in his gum where the dentist, I guess, had dropped the mercury on its way to the tooth, and it had gone in the side, like under his gum. And his mercury, I tested, I've never seen such high mercury. Like I was like, how are you not dead? I don't even understand. And it took forever to chelate. Like he had multiple fillings in each tooth. Like it was just a nightmare. What has been your experience with dental?
myself,
Yours?
like, yeah, well, kind of the same like Kevin, because like, I'm older. And so when I was a kid in Italy, they just like gave you fillings with amalgam, like it's nothing for the littlest thing. Like forget the fluoride pills that they gave me as a kid as well for my teeth. I mean, I don't know, I'm alive sometimes. We are so resilient. But yeah, and then when I had my amalgams removed, because I started knowing about this, my poor dentist, he wasn't a biodentist. So he just like took them all out. And then I got this massive mercury poisoning because it all went in, all the stuff it took out, like breathe it in, swallowed it. Like, so it took me about 6 months to do a really good, like heavy metal cleanse. I think I did it a couple of times also because like I do eat sushi and like I am aware of the badness of it. I try to like eat like, not eat tuna. I don't ever eat tuna if I can. Like just try to be smaller fish. But yes, I mean, come on, it's, we need to be alive and enjoy life sometimes. I'm like, I can clean this up later. Bad example, but
I do it too. I do it too. In fact, we were fishing a couple of years ago and we caught a tuna and our friend was like, just put it in the freezer. We'll deal with it later. So we just like put it in the freezer and didn't like gut it or whatever it's called. And so that night we were cutting it open and I thought they were fat nodules like in the fish. No. There were parasites crawling out of the fish. It was the grossest thing. Ever since then, I've not been able to have sushi, or like the fish that I eat has to be so cooked, because like I woke up that night and anyone listening is like, you've ruined sushi for me, but sorry guys. We woke up. I couldn't sleep. And so I woke up and I went back to the kitchen. I sanitized everything, but there were parasites again, like these little worms crawling I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm never eating it again. And that was forever ago. So that was disgusting.
Thank you for sharing that. I know. It's,
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about detoxification, and you mentioned the fat cells holding the toxins. What happens if we are losing a bunch of weight through maybe HCG and we're going against our body? Like, what's happening with all those things if it's being stored in our fat?
Mostly they'll bounce around inside your body and end up in your organs, because you can't lose your organs. I mean, you lose the fat cells, so these substances come out. And for those of you that are not so familiar with like the processes of detoxification, toxins are stored in fat bases in fat cells, and they're transported mostly on fat molecules until they get to your liver, and then the liver converts them into a water-soluble base, and then they get carried on amino acids so they can be excreted through your urine, through your feces, mostly through your gut. So that's why it's so important that your liver and your gut are functioning, and like your kidneys as well are functioning so that those toxins can go out. But then when your liver is congested, which is mostly in most people that have never done liver work, because the poor liver has to deal with crazy amount of toxins present in the environment, in the food, your stress hormones, all the hormones are processed through the liver, to be maintained in balance. So the toxins are not able to get clearance. Imagine like the freeway at rush hour, so you're losing weight. That means all the people are getting out of the buildings and in the cars and on the freeway all at once. So there are these giant bottlenecks, and not everybody's able to get on the freeway. So people will take alternative routes and, take the streets like we do in LA a lot of times, Los Angeles, California, home of traffic. And so all these little cars that are now navigating the streets are your toxins that are not able to be excreted, and they're going to end up in circulation. And what happens is that they'll land in different places and can attach or get now stored in different places, or they will cause things like oxidation. They will cause your cells to become necrotic, or to not be able to receive oxygen, or to just not be able to function properly inside the cell. And so they will cause dysfunction and sickness inside your body in other places. And that's why it's so important to detox in the right way. And there is a lot of misunderstanding about that too, like the juice fasting kind of detox. And yeah, there are a lot of really not great way to detox. You think it's great to detox even if it's done in a not best way. Yes, at a very superficial level, it's better to do a juice fast than to do nothing. But as you progress, and you continue doing something wrong, then eventually that is gonna backfire on you and have consequences.
Yeah, completely. And a lot of the times people assume detoxing is just taking a couple pills to make you poop a lot, and that's a detoxification process. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that that's pretty prevalent.
Yeah, because like pooping makes you feel good, right? And makes you feel empty and light. And that gives you this illusion that you're lighter. Oh, I feel so good. But it is important to get the colon moving and your intestines moving while you are detoxifying. Because like you don't want all this trash that's being like taken out of your house. You don't want it to sit on the curb forever. You need the trash truck to come get it before it stinks to the heavens and get it out. So yeah, you need to move the colon, the intestines, but then the real detoxing happens in the liver. So if your liver is not converting toxins and binding the different processes of conversions, and Leanne here, she's like the real scientist. She can give
Conjugation.
Yeah, thank you. The right words, and believe it or not,
people won't even remember it. So like, I say buddy up. Like when I'm explaining it, I'm like, the toxins buddy up with another compound and they exit the building.
You have the best explanation. I'm going to steal that one. So yeah, if the buddying up doesn't happen, like those poor lonely toxins go back to where they try to go back to where they came from, and they can't return. So they start just bouncing around, and just pooping alone will not do it. So it's back on the liver, and really the liver support the ability to buddy up. So that means we need to provide those buddies that carry the toxins out, and like if you're doing a juice fast and you don't have proteins available, because those buddies are basically proteins that are carrying out those conjugated toxins, like the body cannot carry them out. And so like these vegan detoxes, they don't really work so well. Your body's going to have to break down your own muscle and, break down organs, break down muscle to provide those necessary buddies. So doing things in a way that's physiologically smart and like aligned with the physiology of your body, and really truly understanding the physiology of the body, because like, again, like great example is like juice detox. Yeah, it's an elimination diet. Your body naturally wants to release the toxicity when the toxins stop coming in. So that means when it's not constantly flooded with toxicity and you put a pause on that, your body will like reverse the process and like eliminate. But that doesn't mean that it has all the tools for elimination. So we need to be able to provide. So the process is twofold. We stop toxins from coming in, do an elimination diet, and at the same time provide the necessary nutrients for all those budding up conjugation processes that we need to do.
Yes, completely. So like we've talked about, the first is supporting our health and understanding what's standing in the way of your weight loss, like those parasites, heavy metals, mold toxicity, thyroid imbalance, usually caused by the three things I just mentioned, and really understanding what's at play. We might not actually get to root cause, like actual root, like why did this happen, but understanding what's contributing. And then the second part, it sounds like, is safe weight loss, safe and effective weight loss. Like an example, beyond the conjugation in the liver, when you get to the gut, and you were talking about the smelly trash that needs to be taken out. If your poop is staying in your bowels long enough and you have a high amount of beta glucuronidase, which is this thing that can reactivate estrogen, your body's dumped all the estrogen in your poop. It's ready to take out the trash, but this beta glucuronidase guy will come in and reactivate it all, and the estrogen will go back, and your body's like, I thought we got rid of all this stuff. And so it sounds, what we're saying here is like, first, support your health, understand what's standing in the way of your weight loss. And second, do weight loss safely, because as you're releasing this fat, there's going to be stuff in your fat cells that you don't want to stick around. And if you start losing weight without supporting your body and clearing things out properly to get ready for that, it's very rare that somebody will talk about safe and effective weight loss. Would you agree?
Yeah. They want fast weight loss. They want permanent weight loss, but they want easy weight loss, but safe and effective, that's not the most common words associated with it, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's so sad. And what's your spiel that you share with your clients? I have my own spiel. This is about elevator pitches again. When a client comes to you and they say like, Vivica, I can't lose weight. Okay, I'm down to support my health. I'm down to do safe weight loss. How long does it take to get to their goal? Yeah, I'll just leave it at there. How long does it take?
This is where like you start like making your clients mad or like telling them what they don't want to hear. But like I'm honest, is like, first of all, it does take time. And we don't really know how long it takes for your individual body to process through all this stuff, to reverse the damage that you have done to the metabolic processes. I try to squeeze like an amount of time for them that to give them an idea, but a person that is really damaged metabolism and is very toxic, a year is not an uncommon period of time, for you to be able to at least get a grip on the foundation of your health. Can weight loss happen while you do that? Of course, it will. It does. But you might not get like, bikini skinny, South Beach bikini skinny in like 3 months if there are so many things that need to be addressed that are preventing the weight loss. That's why, my program used to be 8 weeks, and then like it started going longer and longer and longer. And now I have a 4-month program that is basically kind of like chewing gum, right? The same thing, just stretched, because people need time. Bodies need time for healing. And, when I try to take people through a process and we want to accelerate it, then it's kind of like selling them short on their possibilities for healing. So I ended up with this 4-month program, which I think is not enough. It should be 6 months, but I try to stretch it in every possible way I can, because the body really needs to go through all these different phases. And then sometimes there are clients that come out and have all their goals checked off and it's awesome. And usually older clients, I hate to say that, we all get old, and as we get older, it just things slow down a little bit. It's not that it's impossible. It's just your metabolism is a little slower. Your cell renewal is a little slower. You're still doing all the functions, but let's be honest with ourselves. As we head towards the end of our life, things got slower is by design. So we can still be a very healthy person, even in our 70s and 80s and 90s. We can totally extend the quality of our life. It just gets slower. So when you're older, the weight loss and the healing will both be slower than when you're young and you have a lot of vital energy to put into these processes. Can still happen though.
Completely. Couldn't agree with you more. Vivica, where can people find more from you, work with you, find out about this 4-month thing, connect with you online? Tell us the places that they can find you.
So I try because, like you have been around so long, and like I have stuff everywhere online. Like it's just a plague online. But I try to condense everything into one page that will make it really easy for people to have an overview about me and my services. And that page is the Healing Foods Method, which is my program, .com/services. So that's kind of easy. thehealingfoodsmethod.com/services. So that's a nice overview. And then, of course, there is my old standing blog, thenourishedcaveman.com, where there are many recipes and videos and interviews and all of it for years and years. And then I'm on Instagram, of course, as The Nourished Caveman. And on Facebook. Facebook is kind of fizzling away. It's a weird thing. Whatever, it's happening there. And like, and on YouTube, I have ancient videos if you guys want to laugh at the beginning of keto.
Good times, good memories all around. I'm sure I'm on there too in a purple room. That's how long ago that was. Vivica,
Right.
thank you for coming on the show today and just chatting. It's been so nice to reconnect with you. And I'll include links to all the things that you mentioned in the show notes today, guys. You can find it down below this video if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the show notes. Or if you have no idea where any of those things are, you can just go to ketodietpodcast.com, look for episode 344, and I'll include all of Vivica's books and content and all the places you can find her that
Books.
flag across. Oh, and all of these books that she's showing in the video now. So we will include those. Vivica, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Leanne. It's so good to see you again.
I hope you really enjoyed today's chat with Vivica. All her links and details are down below, including her books, how to connect with her on social media, how to become a client of hers, all of it down below. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And if you want to ask me a question or just connect with me, you can go to healthfulpursuit.com/contact and fill out that form. You can also find details down below if you want to reach me. And I will see you next week for another episode of the Keto Diet Podcast. Bye.